This mulch is nothing more than grass and manure, and maybe a few dried leaves and stuff thrown in there when I get them. Now it's very important to mix the two together. So you've got to have something green and something brown. Okay, you've got to have your nitrogen source and you've got to have your carbon source. Now those two things together will break down and create good mulch, good water holding, nutrient rich mulch. Which same thing again. It's slowly breaking down. And when it starts turning black like that, you know you're onto something. It's gorgeous. This used to be just grass and manure, this layer, and you end up with little worms that just start moving in. You need to create an environment where these guys want to live, and it won't happen if you just use grass alone, or if you just use leaves on their own. You have to combine the two. You have to combine nitrogen and you have to combine carbon. So what I do, this is the most abundant source of carbon I have on this property, and I get this when we slash up the top paddock. It's dried grass. There's no more nitrogen in it. So this is just solely carbon. Now if I just put this there like that, if I just put that grass there like that, it's going to take ages to break down. And what it does, as soon as I hit this with water, it starts compacting. Now when I go to water that again, the water has a really hard time getting through this. So I can sit here and water and water and water. No water will get through this. Underneath will be bone dry. Now what I've got here is the most abundant nitrogen source I've got on the property. And it's horse manure. What I have to do is I have to add this nitrogen on top of that carbon, okay, to help the process of decomposition start. So I just lay this horse manure over the top of that grass, like so, and that's basically it for that process. Now, what I have to do now is I have to introduce water to this, and I'll show you how I do that. I basically start by just wetting the area and just getting a little bit of water in there. And I'll show you what I mean about how dry grass basically doesn't let water through it. So essentially what I'm trying to do is to saturate this layer that I've just put on. So I look at that. See, that's dry. Dry as a bone. Even though I've just put, you know, a good lot of water on there. So what I do is I get my hands in there and I make sure that whole layer is wet. I know that water's through there. Secondly, the water will start activating the nitrogen and the carbon. So that process of decomposition starts. Because without that water, nothing will happen. Alright, so I keep going around, I work that now until all of this organic matter that I've just placed on is saturated. Looks good. Get the hands dirty. Turn the tap off. So what I've ended up with now is a mulch layer that's basically saturated. And this will hold water now for a couple of weeks as that water slowly starts moving its way down. So this layer here, in about 2 weeks, will be half the thickness. Because of that, when this carbon, which is the dried grass, and that manure are combined and you add water, the process starts. Okay? But it's very important to saturate this layer. Okay? If you just throw straight grass onto here and give it a little water and walk away, you're not doing your plant any favours. Okay, it's important to get that water into it so that dried grass becomes moist. That's moist now, it's not cracking. It's basically gone limp. Okay, there's moisture in that grass now. So now I won't have to do this for say another 2 months. That's all it's going to need. Okay, and then this layer here, within 2 months, will be broken down into basically nothing again, and it'll become black soil. It's as simple as that. So just remember, mulching is continuous. Just like the forest floor, those trees constantly drop leaves, those leaves are breaking down, and they're all at various stages of decomposition. Okay? But that organic matter, when it starts breaking down, creates a nutrient-rich environment for your plant's feeder roots, which live up in that top layer. And also, that mulch holds moisture, which is very important to conserve that moisture in that root zone, so your roots don't dry out, so that soil doesn't dry out, and all those little beneficial critters that live there don't die. The idea is to keep that alive, keep it all constantly working. So just remember, next time you're mowing your lawn and you think it's a good idea to dump your grass clippings at the base of your tree, don't. Grass clippings are good, they're a great source of nitrogen, but put them on thinly, just a little thin layer, and then put something dry on top, like dried grass or dried leaves or something like that, wood chips, whatever you want to use. But make sure you combine the both, the nitrogen and the carbon, and wet it thoroughly. Get your hands in there and make sure all that dry material absorbs as much water as you can, and you essentially create a sponge. So once it's wet, it'll start accepting water. Don't overdo it, just keep it simple. Okay? Just make sure carbon and nitrogen have to go together. So I hope you've learnt something today. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Eat your garden.